Well, the weather around here is finally cooperating, and I got a video for you today that is long overdue. So let's dive right into the first shots with the PSA AK-V9. Alright, we need to get a couple things out of the way real quick. First off, I want to give a big shout out to Pursuit Armory. They are a local gun store right here in my hometown, and they handled the FFL transfer on this AK-V9. And the last thing, I already did a full unboxing video on this gun. I went over all the specs, the features, and everything that comes in the box. So if you have not watched that, I suggest you go back and watch that video first before you watch this one. And if you don't want to watch it, I'm going to go ahead and bring the specs up on the screen and you can pause it and check it out. Because a lot of the stuff I covered in that video, I'm not going to cover today. This is all going to be about my first shots and impressions with this gun at the range. So now that we got all that out of the way, let's have some fun. Alright, let's go over everything we got on the menu today for the AK-V9. We're going to be using some 124 grain Igman, some 115 grain Magtech. We're also going to be using some of this Federal Black Pack 115 grain. And our last round, this is a Summit City 124 grain bullet. These are my reloads. And later on in the video, we are going to be running all this ammo suppressed. Alright, so let's talk about the setup of this gun. This gun is exactly how it comes right out of the box, other than the fact I added the Griffin Armament heads-up sight. Now, after I got the optic zeroed in, I went ahead and shot a couple mags through this just to get a feel for this gun and this optic. Because although I've reviewed a lot of PCCs and PDWs on this channel, I've never actually shot an AK chambered in 9mm. Now, I was shooting these groups at about 15 yards, and the first couple groups started out a little rough. They were shooting a little low and to the right. I made a couple adjustments on the dot, and then I got it zeroed in. Now, even though these groups weren't the best groups I've shot, this gun is plenty accurate, which you're going to see here in a little bit when we start shooting the US PSA and steel targets. And I was also happy with the fact I was using my reloads to shoot these 10-shot groups, because if these guns don't shoot my reloads, I don't have much use for them around here. So after I wrapped up shooting the 10-shot groups, I went ahead and set up some US PSA targets and a couple steel plates, and I started putting 2 shots on each target and transitioning back and forth. And I was starting to get a pretty good feel for this gun, and I was shooting it pretty well. Now, the trigger on this AK-V9 is absolutely awesome. We talked about it a lot in the unboxing video. And here in a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and get the trigger pull scale out, and I'll show it to you again. But the trigger pull on this is extremely light, and you can shoot this gun pretty fast. So between the trigger, the accuracy of the gun, and the optic I chose to put on this, I got some pretty good shots in. Alright, here we go. We've got all our hits on the first piece of steel. And our next target, we've got all alphas, 1 Charlie. Alright, I'm liking this. We've got all alphas. And we've got all our hits on our last piece of steel. Now this particular version of the AK-V I have is called the Redwood. And as you can see, this has got some really nice red stained wood furniture on it. But you can get this gun in a lot of different variations. In fact, when you go on PSA's website, they just have page after page of these AK-V9s. They've got quite a few models with Magpul furniture. They also have the handguard they call the cheese grater if you want to go with that option. And they also have other variations with the wood furniture if you choose to want to get a different color. All right, here we go. We got all our hits on our first piece of steel. Our next target, we've got all alphas, 1 Charlie, just outside. And our next target, we got all alphas and 1 Charlie. And we got all our hits on our last piece of steel. Now, most of the controls on this are just like any other AK, so if you're a fan of AKs, you're probably going to be a fan of this. You've got your charging handle right here on this side. You've got your AK style safety. And right here you have your AK style magazine release. And speaking of the mags, it does come with 1 magazine out of the box. And these are a Palmetto State Armory branded magazine. Now the capacity on these magazines, these are standard capacity. But being that we're on YouTube, we got to be a little cryptic. So standard capacity that you might be able to fit 5 extra rounds in. You're going to have to do the math on that one. Now these mags are a polymer magazine. They're very easy to take down. Got a little button right here in the bottom. Push that in, remove the base pad, and pull them out for cleaning and maintenance. And you also have steel reinforced lips on this magazine. Now, one other really cool thing about the AK-V9 is if you already have a CZ Scorpion or you have CZ Scorpion mags, they will also work in the AK-V9. Now, I did not try that because, well, I don't have any Scorpion mags. But as far as these go, these are great mags. I had 0 issues with the mags all day with all the different types of ammo we ran. And when they are in stock, these mags are pretty cheap. They come in right at about 20 beans or less. Now, one of the other great features with this mag is the fact that you do get last round bolt hold open. And another really cool, unique thing on the AK-V9 is if you look right here, you've got a lever. You push down on that, and it will drop your bolt. And the magazine release works pretty well. I'm a left-handed shooter, so when I need to change the mags, I just come up with my hand, grab the mag, take my thumb, hit the lever, and strip the mag. But one downfall to this is the mags do not drop free. And you're going to see this in a lot of videos that you watch on reviews on this gun. We'll hit the lever, and as you can see, the mag does not drop. So keep that in mind. That's why I just grab the mag, hit the lever, and strip the mag. Now, one other super cool feature on the AK-V9 is it does come with this tanker style muzzle brake. Now, as far as if this brake is actually doing anything for this gun, I can't really tell you that, because due to the fact that this gun weighs a little over 7 pounds and it's only chambered in 9mm, you don't get much muzzle rise with this gun. And even though it is just a direct blowback gun, I think it shoots pretty smooth and pretty flat. And we're going to talk about why I think that towards the end of the video when we get into the pros and cons. Now, one other really super cool feature on this brake, you've got a little detent right here. You're going to push this in and you can start to thread the brake off. So if you choose to remove the brake and run this suppressed, you do not need any tools to remove the muzzle brake. But Palmetto State Armory does recommend that you use a jam nut if you're going to remove the brake and put a suppressor on this. Now, the thread pitch on this is 1/2 by 28, which is awesome. And I did buy a pack of jam nuts, and I did run this suppressed all day on the second day of filming, and I had 0 issues with the suppressor coming loose, and it actually shoots very well suppressed. Now, one other really awesome feature on this is the dust cover on this. And this is not your typical AK dust cover where you hit the button here on the back and remove the cover. This is actually hinged. So you're going to hit your button and you're going to lift up and it exposes your trigger group and everything on the inside of the AK. And it locks up rock solid. I did this multiple times at the range because while I was doing the review on this optic, I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to lose zero. And I had zero issues with the optic losing zero. Now, right behind your hinge point, you do have an all blacked out iron sight. It is not an adjustable iron sight. And then here on the front, you have your regular AK style front sight, but your front sight is adjustable. So now let's talk about brace options on this. Now, same thing when you go on their website, they have a lot of different brace options with these AK-V9s. Now this is a triangle folder and it is an SB tactical brace. And I actually really like this brace. Now on the back of your AK-V9, you do have a 1913 rail adapter for your different braces. So if you don't like this brace, and say you have another favorite that you like, whether it's an SB Tactical or a Strike Industries, as long as it goes on a 1913 rail, you can put it on your AK-V9. And this brace is a folding brace. You push up, and it will flip to the side. It also locks. So this is not going to be flopping around if you're going to use this for a truck gun or a backpack gun. It's a pretty nice brace. It's definitely stiff, but the more you use it, it's going to loosen up a little bit. So now let's talk about the trigger. Like I said earlier, this thing has got a great trigger in it. Now this is just a curved trigger, so I got to be real careful here because like I said, this trigger is extremely light. You got just the slightest take up and it just breaks. And the reset, very short, very tactile and audible, and you get that nice clean break. It does force your finger forward, but I was not getting any kind of trigger slap. It's just a phenomenal trigger. So I've got my Wheeler trigger pull scale. Let me get you guys a trigger pull weight. That broke at exactly 3 pounds. And I've got quite a few pulls on this where it pulled right at about 2 3/4. So like I said, ALG triggers are awesome. I have one in another AK, but I am not going to upgrade the trigger in this gun. This is one of the best stock triggers right out of the box I've ever felt. So let's start getting into the pros and cons with this gun. And we'll hit the cons first because I have very few cons with this. The number one con is going to be the weight. This gun is heavy. It's extremely heavy for as small and compact as this gun is. But that added weight also eats up a lot of that felt recoil because this gun is not roller delayed, it's just direct blowback. But like I said earlier, for me, I think it shoots pretty smooth. Now I've talked to a lot of other guys on YouTube and a lot of people really like these guns, but I've talked to a couple guys that say they do not like it. They said it has too much felt recoil. And I'm not getting that with this. But here's one of the biggest reasons I think why. It's going to depend a lot on what brace you decide to use. Now, like I said, this is the one that it came with. But if you look, this brace flexes. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was getting very little felt recoil and why I was able to stay right on target with my follow-up shot so well. I thought this gun shoots extremely smooth. But you are going to get quite a bit of felt recoil with a direct blowback gun. So when it comes to your brace, I would go this route. But then again, you do whatever you want. My second con with this is that I wish the mags would drop freely out of it. I already showed you that you will have to grab the mag and strip it out of the mag well. And the third con with this gun, but PSA is very upfront of letting you know that this gun does not like to shoot flat point bullets or hollow point bullets. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and roll this footage in so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. I took some of my 135 grain subsonic reloads with me. Number one, I wanted to see if they would work. And two, I wanted to see how subsonic rounds sounded coming out of this gun with a suppressor on it. And they were nice and quiet coming out of my anechoic 45L. But as you can see, this gun was having a lot of issues running those rounds. So if you decide you're going to use this gun for a truck gun or a home defense gun and you want to run hollow points, this gun may not be the best option for that. Now me, I personally don't care. I wanted this gun just to have fun with at the range. So now let's talk about the pros with this gun, because I have a lot of pros when it comes to this. First off, this gun is very accurate. And I have decided after filming with this gun that I am going to keep it. So when I bring it back for the 1,000 round review, I want to take it over on the rifle range and we'll stretch out and shoot the steel targets at 100 yards. And we may even go out to 200 yards with it. My second pro with this is I think it's a beautiful gun. I love this redwood furniture. Kind of a modern look, but then you got that classic wood look. It's just a super awesome looking gun. The next pro with this is the reliability of this gun. I had zero issues other than those subsonic bullets I was trying to shoot in this. I showed you all the ammo at the beginning of the video I used. I shot a little over 500 rounds through this because I was doing the first shots with the gun and doing the review on this Griffin Armament heads-up sight. And whether it was 115 grain or 124 grain, this gun ran everything 100% reliably. So all in all, I am extremely happy with this AK-V9. I highly recommend it if you want something to just have a lot of fun with at the range. Now, these guns are not cheap. These are going to come in right around 1,000 beans. But I have noticed about once a month, PSA will run a deal where I've seen these go as low as $7.99. But even at 1,000 beans, I think this gun is well worth that. And with that, I'm out of here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.